My name is Leslie Linvall, though in the online world I've known as 1% Yellow. This video is created for Dr. Alec Koros' ECI 831 class and reflects my attempt to become a social artist. Through this project, I hope to connect individuals from my undergraduate university, the Augustana campus of the University of Alberta, with individuals from the University of Mary Washington who are exploring the possibilities for liberal arts education online. The point of contact between these two schools is their mutual membership in the Council of Public Liberal Arts Colleges, or COPLAC. In part one of this series, I will introduce some of the people who will participate in a conversation with me about online learning. I suppose the first person I should introduce is myself. My name is Leslie, and I graduated from and worked for Augustana. I've volunteered to be a reviewer for the Online Learning Initiative at the University of Mary Washington. And during this process, I want to hone my skills as a social artist. That's someone whom Nancy White calls a person who creates a space where people can interact and learn from each other. I'm hoping that by asking good questions, I can create the conditions that will facilitate others' flourishing. So pull up a chair and let's talk about how we approach the online world as a way to get to know each other.
The online identity part has been crucial in me understanding the web and how it works. And to be there and to be in the space and to understand it as a participant defines it for me. I do have a face-to-face life that's not always online, but I have an online life that's not always face-to-face.
I used to blog. I may blog again someday. I have a personal learning network of people literally around the world who I follow and whose work informs my work, even when they're outside of my discipline, and most of them are. That's a very different sort of experience than happened 20 years ago, or probably still happens today with faculty who don't live online, as you say.
I'm a self-professed geek. I mean, I like technology. I like trying to figure out how it works and, bending it to my will and all that kind of stuff. I don't actually have a very strong virtual presence. Know, roughly speaking, how it works, but I don't spend a lot of time there myself. My internet use, etc., is I consume. And I create in the sense of websites, but those are often, it's oversimplification, but promotional in nature.
I don't actually have a lot of experience with it, except that increasingly, and especially like this semester, where I've let students submit things to me by email, which is for me fairly unusual, but I don't somehow think of that as something separate from, that's just part of my life, if you know what I mean. Yeah. I don't have an online life either, in the sense that my preference is always to, like you, to see people, and to hear people. That's always my preference. And that's been mostly positive, but sometimes I just can't be bothered.
I'm one of the people who is an immigrant. I've only come to it in the last 15 years or so. So I'm Luddite in some ways.
But everyone has only been doing it for about 15 years. It's just
yeah,
that your
yeah.
15 years are like, you have something else to compare to.
Most of us communicate today with people that aren't immediately around us. I love it. In class time, you got a question or something that comes up, some term that doesn't make sense, and somebody's sitting there with their computer and said, well, according to this spot, they just throw it into the conversation because they happen to Google it and come up with a point of view.
Post-graduation, I've been doing, I would say, a lot of learning through means like Twitter and that sort of thing, where I've been able to connect with people who are interested in learning about the same things I'm interested in learning it. So that's been really neat for me to think like, oh, okay, I'm graduated, but I don't have to stop learning, and I can try learning in new ways and interacting with people that I wouldn't be able to interact with in a face-to-face way. And so that's a different way of thinking about it. And I've really enjoyed it. When I was very much opposed to the idea of Twitter before, I thought it was silly, but
I've been really careful not to talk about the real world as opposed to the virtual world, because I think you have to be really very much not used to these kinds of interactions to pretend that it's not the real world. And there's real relationships that I've formed with people online over the years. I've got a lot of content online as well that comes to supplement what goes on in class or summarize it. And it's really a place for students to turn to if they can't see me in person. I use social networking quite a bit, both on a more personal level, where, for instance, I'm not friends with my students on Facebook, but being that I'm also a writer, I also have a Facebook page, a public profile. I also have a Twitter account.
Sarah Ross spent some time in online education, but in her personal life, she uses the internet to follow world news, keep in touch with family and friends, as well as keep in touch with crafters worldwide.
Due to dealing with two institutions, two universities, I work very often with the computer to look after corrections, etc. And I say we, people like in this situation, we get saturated from so much computer and so much emails that my personal email, Hotmail, I have there 800 emails that I have not opened.
So maybe we don't all live online in the same way, but we can all acknowledge that living online is something that is happening more and more, and it's a space that we need to examine in the face of education. In the videos to follow, we're going to examine how we all view liberal arts as an institution and the values of that type of education. Then we'll move on to see how we all look at online liberal arts.